The laughing started behind me, not somewhere deep in the trees, not down the trail, right behind me. I spun so fast my flashlight slipped from my hand and hit the dirt, and for half a second the beam rolled across the inside wall of my tent before landing at the entrance. The thin nylon glowed white in the darkness, and through that fabric I saw the shape of something small standing inches away from me. Then it laughed again, and this time it sounded exactly like my voice trying to sound like a child. My name is Evan Mercer. I was 28, and I worked seasonal night patrol at a remote campground in northern Montana. Most people think national park work is just handing out maps and warning people about bears, but night patrol was different. After midnight, the entire forest changed into something that felt like it had been waiting for everyone else to leave. That week, I was assigned to the farthest campground loop in the park, a place called Black Pine Ridge. It sat almost 12 miles from the nearest ranger station, with only 6 campsites spread along a dead-end road surrounded by heavy timber. By 2 in the morning, every family was asleep, every campfire was dead, and the only sounds were wind moving through the pines and my boots on gravel. My routine was always the same. Check the empty sites, log any vehicles, make sure nobody wandered off the marked trails after dark. Around 3, I usually sat in the small canvas patrol tent near the trailhead to finish paperwork before making one last round. It was boring most nights, and boring was exactly how I liked it. That night felt wrong, before the laughing ever started. Around 2:17 a.m., my radio crackled, even though dispatch never called that late, unless someone was hurt. I picked it up, expecting static, but all I heard was breathing, not loud, not panicked. Just slow breathing, like someone holding the button down and listening to me breathe back. I asked dispatch to repeat the call. No one answered. Then the radio clicked off by itself. I checked the display and saw my own unit number listed as the incoming transmission. Unit 12, my radio, my channel, my call sign. For a second, I honestly thought the screen was glitching, because there was no way my own radio could have called itself from the same frequency. That's when I noticed something worse. Outside the tent, the forest had gone completely silent. No insects, no branches moving, no distant owl. It was the kind of silence that feels unnatural because it arrives all at once, like every living thing heard something you didn't. I stepped outside with my flashlight and swept the beam across the empty campsites. Tents sat still in the dark, picnic tables, coolers, parked SUVs with fogged windows. Nothing moved between the trees, but the silence pressed against my ears so hard it almost felt loud. Then I heard a child giggle from somewhere near campsite 4. It was soft, too soft, and far too close. Black Pine Ridge was adults only that week because the upper trail had recent cougar activity. I knew that because I personally checked every reservation. No families, no kids, just hikers and 2 retired couples in RVs. I walked toward the sound anyway. My flashlight moved across tree trunks and wet ground until the beam landed on a small shoe print in the mud beside the trail. It was fresh, tiny, barely bigger than my palm. One footprint, then another, then another. They circled one pine tree 3 times before stopping abruptly, like whoever made them had simply disappeared. My mouth went dry. I stood there staring at those prints when my radio hissed again. Unit 12, dispatch said. Except it wasn't dispatch. It was my own voice. I froze with the radio halfway to my mouth as my voice came through the speaker, calm and clear. Don't turn around. My whole body locked. I could hear breathing behind me, slow, close enough to touch the back of my neck. I could smell wet dirt and pine needles, like someone had leaned their face inches from my shoulder. Every instinct screamed at me to skin around, but something in the voice on that radio made me stand perfectly still. Then the thing behind me whispered my name, Evan. In my voice, I turned so hard my shoulders slammed into the tree, and my flashlight beam joked wildly through the woods. There was nothing there. No person. No animal. No child. Just empty trees and the thin drifting mist hugging the ground. And then it laughed again from inside my tent. I ran back so fast I nearly slipped on the gravel. The zipper was still closed exactly where I left it. Nobody could have gone in without brushing past me. But I could hear movement inside, small shifting sounds, like someone crawling over my gear. My hand shook as I pulled the zipper down. The tent was empty. My sleeping bag was still rolled against the corner. My logbook was open. My flashlight battery pack sat where I left it. But in the center of the floor was my radio. I was still holding my radio in my hand. I stared down at the second one on the tent floor and felt my chest tighten so hard I could barely breathe. Same scratches on the casing, same department sticker, same cracked antenna. It was an exact copy of the one in my hand. Then both radios spoke at the same time. "Evan, someone is outside." I stumbled backward out of the tent and hit the dirt. My flashlight rolled into the brush, leaving only the weak lantern hanging inside the canvas. The radios kept hissing together, repeating the same words in perfect sync. "Someone is outside. Someone is outside. Someone is outside." But this time it was different, because I realized the voice was right. Across the road, between two trees, someone was standing there, small, thin, perfectly still. At first I thought it really was a kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, but the proportions felt wrong. The arms hung too long, the head tilted too far to one side, and even from 30 feet away, I could see it smiling. Not a normal smile. My smile. My own face was staring back at me from a child-sized body in the trees. I couldn't move. The thing lifted one hand slowly and copied the exact way I was holding my radio. Then it pressed its fingers to the side of its mouth and made the same laughing sound I'd heard all night, only now I could see its lips moving with mine. I don't remember deciding to run. I just remember sprinting for the truck, fumbling my keys and slamming the door so hard the whole cab shook. I started the engine and hit the floodlights. The trees lit up bright white. Nothing was there. The road was empty. The tent sat open. And my radio in the passenger seat said quietly, "You left me behind." I threw it into the back seat and drove the 12 miles to the ranger station faster than I ever should have on those roads. I kept checking the mirror the whole way, expecting to see that small shape sitting in the rear seat. Every time I looked, there was nothing except darkness. At the station, I filed a report that sounded insane even while I was writing it. Equipment malfunction, stress fatigue, possible trespasser. I left out the parts nobody would believe because I barely believed them myself. My supervisor read the report at sunrise and told me I needed sleep. Then he asked why I had signed out twice. I told him I hadn't. He turned the logbook around. 2 entries sat side by side under that night's patrol sheet. Both had my name. Both had my badge number. Both had my handwriting. The first one was from when I started my shift. The second one was logged 43 minutes before I arrived at the park. I quit 2 days later. I never went back to Black Pine Ridge, and I never listened to the audio from that radio again after hearing my own voice whisper things I never said. I packed my apartment, moved 3 states away, and told myself exhaustion can make people see impossible things. That worked for almost 6 months, until last week. I woke up in the middle of the night because I heard a child laughing outside my bedroom window. And before I opened my eyes, I heard my own voice from the dark corner of the room whisper, "Don't look at it this time."